So I thought I would do what I think is a very important car video today. But before we get into the main subject matter of this car vid, I want to remind you that I will be hosting a free group coaching session on Zoom on December 5th. That's a Tuesday. If you're watching this video when it comes out, you can join us because it won't have happened yet. To get that Zoom information, you have to be part of my mailing list. I'll put a link below to the mailing list sign up if you want to sign up for that. Or if you'd rather, you can just email me to join the mailing list at info@radicalcounselor.com. So what I want to discuss today, so Tuesday, December 5th, 4 p.m. Eastern. That's what I want to tell you too, 4 p.m. Eastern. Today I want to discuss a little bit more about basically how these manifesting ideas are presented usually. And I'm sorry, like in a way I'm apologetic to keep on harping on this. I know I've been harping on it a lot recently. But the reason I'm harping on it is because the truth of the matter is you're on YouTube watching a video about spirituality and manifesting. And unless you only watch my videos or a few other people on YouTube that speak in a similar way to me in terms of kind of like a sober approach to this stuff, like Maggie's videos or Cecilia's videos. And there's a few other people too, but not many. None off the top of my head. Maybe Caleb and the Golden Link. But yeah, unless you are just watching, or at least primarily only watching videos from my channel and those few other channels I just mentioned, chances are that the way this spiritual and manifesting stuff is being presented to you on YouTube is very sensationalistic, very dramatic in its presentation. And that in and of itself, some of the time is okay. Because even though I have a very sober take on a lot of these ideas, I don't deny for a moment that you can create or be a co-creator or see quote-unquote miracles in your life by applying these principles. That should go without saying. Like, I believe in this stuff. I believe in these ideas, at least in large part. I mean, there's plenty of quibbles and nuances that I might disagree with various teachers on. But the overall idea that like your imagination directly affects your life and directly can affect your external reality, I am 100% behind. However, the presentation of these ideas, particularly on social media, particularly on YouTube, is such that all we see usually is these sensationalistic takes. Do this and this will miraculously happen. This is so easy if you do this, miraculously change your life in a short period of time. The miracle will happen just like this. You don't have to lift a finger. Simply do this and this happens. Bum, 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 bum. Almost like catchphrases, And then all these, dogmatic interpretations like I was talking about last video in regards to great spiritual teachings like Neville's teachings, like everybody is you pushed out. You don't have to lift a finger. All you have to do is assume, very dogmatic interpretations. And by dogmatic, I also mean a lot of the time very stupid interpretations of these great manifesting ideas. That's how it's presented on YouTube, on almost every channel. even channels that talk about this stuff in a somewhat intelligent way still present it very sensationalistically. For instance, Joseph Rodriguez, who, I've watched his videos for years, and he was a huge influence for why I started my podcast, and why, and also why I got on YouTube. His stuff is, I think his stuff's a little bit different than when he was making videos a couple of years ago. I quite frankly, I don't like it nearly as much. But even like Joseph, even though he has good information to share, all this stuff's very sensationalistic these days. All the titles are one thing, we all have sensationalistic titles pretty much, right? But like the content is like this idea of like, you don't have to lift a finger. It will just come to you, and that's Joseph. Joseph's one of the best. How about all the other people who are not the best? Or like, someone like Tom Karen, like I don't really have much of an opinion one way or the other on his channel. I think his stuff works really well for some people, his advice. But it's so sensationalistic. And like, I don't question what Tom's saying a lot of the time. I feel like he's knowledgeable in his own way. But it's just very much like, you don't have to do a thing and the I am will just take care of it and da-da-da. And again, Tom's good at what he does. But that's not what this channel is. And you see me, this motherfucker in the car, it's a different ball game. Because I'm sober-minded about this stuff. And that is going to turn off a tremendous amount of people. And I'm very aware of that. And I've become more aware of it. That's why I'm making this video. People can't handle the shit I have to say. And it's, again, not because I'm like this enlightened teacher or anything like that. It's just I'm clear-eyed about this stuff. And I've worked it in my own life and worked it with other people, helped them to the best of my abilities for a long enough time that I see how this stuff generally works for people when they're actively, practically trying to apply it in their life. And guess what? For most people, practically applying it is not sensationalistic whatsoever. We have those moments where we feel God and there's this tremendous clarity and we have these epiphanies and all this stuff. But that's not what this stuff is usually like when you're actually applying it on like a mundane daily level and like want to feel better or like want to hopefully improve your external reality. It's not like that. It's not, in my opinion, it's not the way someone like Joseph or Tom talks about it, let alone all the people who are like, not nearly as good at talking about it as them. So people just can't, they don't know what to make of it. I don't think people know what to make of this channel unless you really aren't into YouTube manifesting advice. If you're not into YouTube manifesting advice and just into spiritual manifesting advice and like read books and contemplate it yourself, you're going to get what I'm saying. But if you're watching all these other videos of people talking about how sensationalistic and easy it is and how miraculously simple it is to apply this stuff, and you come here and you see me in the car critically examining it and looking at it in a much more sober fashion, you're going to be like, what the heck? It doesn't seem like the same thing. And it is the same thing. It's the other side of the coin. And we need to see the other side of the coin a lot more often than we do. Because there's thousands of these sensationalistic manifesting channels, and then there's like a handful of sober manifesting channels. And the sensationalism leads to spiritual bypassing very, very, very quickly. Leads to spiritual materialism very, very quickly. Leads to people not actually feeling good or fulfilled about applying these ideas in their life. It leads to people thinking, I'm doing something wrong. I don't feel right while I'm doing this. I feel anxious. I feel like what I want is not going to come. I don't know what to do. I've tried these different techniques and they're not working for me the way people say they should be working on YouTube and how all these commenters are saying they should be working. And I feel anxious. I feel lost. I feel stressed out. That's what YouTube does. It's like spiritual bypassing, maybe at its finest. I don't know if there's just a lot of spiritual bypassing and not getting real with what these ideas mean in your life in it. So I thought it was important to mention all that. And I'm going to read from a Zen book today. I'm going to read from Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind. And before I do, I want to mention something else, okay? If you only watch my videos or only watch a few YouTube videos about this video has nothing to do with you, right? This video is for people who watch all these different manifesting teachers on YouTube. I'm going to link below to something I put on Reddit when I was moderating or when I was working with Maggie and Cecilia on the site. It might have been before I was moderating, about how to 80-20 the law of assumption advice you hear. And a lot of it comes down to just literally reading and studying Neville or other trusted sources talking about Neville, like Israel Regardie, his essay on Neville, or Joseph Murphy in The Power of Your Subconscious Mind. He was a contemporary of Neville. Only contemplating that stuff and ignoring everything else, including all social media, including people making car videos. Okay? So I'll put that link below too. It might be helpful. Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind by Shunryu Suzuki is one of the great Zen books. We've done I've talked about Suzuki a few times. I'll put a link above to one of my favorite podcast episodes I did, kind of talking about creativity and controlling your mind, where I quoted from Shunryu Suzuki. Yeah, it's a fun podcast episode. Anyway, I'm just going to read this is the preface from to this book by Huston Smith, who was a professor of philosophy at MIT. And it talks about, because Zen is very similar in so many different spiritual paths. There's different ways of going at it. And this sensationalistic approach is common in a lot of spiritual paths. And then there's also the much more sober approach, which is a part of a lot of spiritual paths. Zen, this is definitely the case. Huston Smith wrote about how, like, there was this other Suzuki, D.T. Suzuki, who spoke more about Rinzai Zen. And his stuff was, and Huston Smith writes, Daisetsu or D.T. Suzuki's Zen was dramatic. Shunryu Suzuki's is ordinary. Satori was focal for Daisetsu, and it was in large part the fascination of this extraordinary state that made his writings so compelling. In Shunryu Suzuki's book, the words Satori and Kensho, its near equivalent, never appear. So for those of you who don't know, like Satori, or like, you know, in a moment of instant enlightenment, right? It's like we hear about all those moments where, like, the monk all of a sudden realizes like the reality of the nature of reality. Or at the beginning of my book, The Joy of Not Thinking, when I'm on the beach and I had like that mental breakdown, and then that moment, that's like a Satori Kensho type experience, right? That's what draws a lot of people into spirituality. That kind of like awakening is what draws a lot of people also into the law of attraction, law of assumption, whatever you want to call it. But, you know, Huston Smith is saying here that Shunryu Suzuki's Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind isn't like that at all, the approach. He continues, he says, when 4 months before his death, I had the opportunity to ask him, this is Shunryu Suzuki, why Satori didn't figure in his book. His wife leaned toward me and whispered impishly, it's because he hasn't had it. Whereupon the Roshi batted his fan at her in mock consternation, and with fingers to his lips hissed, shh, don't tell him. When our laughter had subsided, he said simply, it's not that Satori is unimportant, but it's not the part of Zen that needs to be stressed. So it's the same thing, in my opinion, when it comes to this manifesting stuff. It's not these sensational one-off experiences that need to be stressed as often as they are. We hear all about these miraculous stories, but then there's no real background or discussion of what happened before and what happens after. The mundane, everyday stuff. The mundane, everyday stuff, looking at this stuff soberly and applying it more successfully in your life is very important. And so that's a huge reason why this channel exists. And, we can draw parallels between like Rinzai Zen, which is like D.T. Suzuki Zen and how he wrote about it, and Soto Zen, which is Shunryu Suzuki Zen, which is basically you just sit. Just sitting is enlightenment. Just being here right now is manifesting. This is it. You're manifesting right now. Normal. So, this is sober advice that's going to turn a lot of people off. But I know that it's going to be helpful for a ton of people on here, too. Because they need to hear it. It's what they're craving to hear, is that you're okay right now. And there's all these tools that you can use in a mundane, practical way to improve your life. Forget the sensationalism. Forget about changing your life, transforming your life in 3 days or 3 weeks. Or manifesting $1 million out of nowhere. Or manifesting the perfect XP next week. Just fucking manifest right now. Over and over and over again. Find more fulfillment and peace in your life. That's what we go over, throughout this channel. Different ways of doing that. And different way to incorporate these phenomenal techniques and ideas more pragmatically in our everyday life. So if that doesn't interest you, I get it. But this is not the right channel for you. And if it does interest you, or you know other people who you think it would interest them, tell them about the channel. Tell them that there's a more practical and down-to-earth way that's also very spiritual to look at this manifesting stuff, to look at this spiritual stuff. All right, so yeah, I hope you join us tomorrow for the group coaching if you want. Again, the link below for the sign-up can be found there. And if you want one-on-one coaching with me, or if you have a question for me, I can be reached at info@radicalcounselor.com. Until next time.